Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the best Reddit answers being read to you. Enjoy! Lawyers, what's a law that isn't real that normal people insist exists? It's a law that exists but widely misunderstood is the concept of entrapment. If the police put a bait vehicle in a high crime area, that is not entrapment. If the police are watching a bar known to overserve to see if there are impaired drivers at the end of the night, that is not entrapment. Entrapment only occurs when a gov agent suggests committing a crime that you were not otherwise going to commit. This actually happened to an old high school teacher of mine. He thought he was going on a date with a lady he met online. When they met up for the date, who happened to be an undercover officer, she was like, "I'm not really interested in a date, but $4T''O'", to which he obliged. He was charged with soliciting a prostitute, but the charges were dropped, since he was only actually interested in the date and had no desire to solicit anything until the officer brought it up. It's federal law in the US that a plainclothes or undercover police officer has to identify themselves as law enforcement if asked. No, it's not the law, and they can tell you whatever the duck they want. I'm reminded of that Breaking Bad cold open where Badger gets arrested for selling product to an undercover officer because of this exact made-up law. Lol. They can do drugs to prove they aren't a cop too. An undercover cop went to court to get his rehab for cocaine covered by workers' comp. It was covered. Driving with interior overhead car lights on is not illegal. Your mom told you that was illegal when you were a kid, too, huh? Dad? When you were a dad? No laws against driving barefoot. Saw this and immediately went to Google to disprove, but you're absolutely right. I've been told this my entire life and always thought it was dumb. The reasoning everyone always told me was because the vibrations from the pedals would make your foot fall asleep or go numb, so you wouldn't have as much control, even though I know so many people who drive barefoot and have never heard one of them say that their foot fell asleep. My mom said, what if you get in a wreck and have to walk over broken glass? In the UK that it is illegal to drink under the age of 18. You can buy alcohol with a meal at 16, beer, wine, cider, and you are not breaking any laws if you give your child some alcohol in the privacy of your own home and they are over the age of 5. You can buy alcohol with a meal, but do restaurants have a final say as to whether or not they'll serve it? In the UK, it's not illegal to park on someone else's driveway. It's classified as trespassing, a civil offense, not criminal, which means the police can't do anything. This particularly surprises people as many think that they have exclusive rights to the parking outside their house as well. What recourse do you have? Good Samaritan laws aren't nearly as broad as people think. For context, I work in emergency services. Some people believe that I was trying to help are the magic words that can get them out of any sticky situation. Black and white than others. Adding a non-medical example of what I'm talking about, imagine you're driving your car and notice someone on the side of the road who needs help. As you swerve off the road to provide assistance to this person in need, you incidentally run over a child on the sidewalk. After the situation is over, you're definitely not free from the consequences of running over the child with your car just because you had good intentions of helping someone else. Versions of that story have occurred, and the drivers have tried to use a Good Samaritan defense because they meant well. There is absolutely some gray area on the subject, but if your unprompted action undoubtedly makes the situation worse than if you'd done nothing, having good intentions is not a get-out-of-jail-free card, and a bunch of people don't understand that concept. U.S. Ex-lawyer here. There is no law that requires the police to provide you with their name and badge number when asked. There may be internal policies, but it's not the law. There is also no law that requires the police to get a supervisor if demanded. Again, policy versus law. There is no law that allows you to question whether an order given by the police is lawful or not. A court has to decide if the order was lawful after the fact, but there are laws to punish you if you do not comply. That's a bit scary. Paralegal. A lot of people think that the law requires you to be a good, decent person. If I'm sitting on a bench and see a blind person about to walk into the path of a bus, it's completely legal for me, in the United States, to remain silent, take my cell phone out, and take a video of his death. It's even legal for me to profit from the video. I'd be a monster for doing it, but there's no law imposing a duty on me to tell this stranger, watch out for that bus. You should never tell a blind guy to watch out for a bus. God damn it, upvoted. The one that is the most frustrating to me, even though it's not really a specific claim that a particular law exists, more a rule of evidence, is that's just hearsay. You have no evidence. comes up all the time, in all kinds of contexts. Even lawyers love using it when it suits them, nothing but hearsay and speculation. Usually, what people mean when they say that is don't believe them. They're lying. Which, fair enough, but that's not what hearsay means. Lots of evidence is just a person talking. That's what a witness is. It's why testimony exists. It's not evidence just because it's a person talking. Hearsay just means that in most cases, you can't have person A say that person B said XYZ, in order to prove that XYZ actually is true. Hearsay, get it? I heard B say it. It just means your witness can only talk about things they actually know about. And, extremely importantly, it also doesn't count as hearsay when person B is actually the person on the other side of the case. Person A is totally allowed to say person B told me yes, I will commit the crime on Tuesday if person B is the defendant, who has been accused of committing the crime on Tuesday. You don't get to complain it's hearsay if you're the one who supposedly said the thing they heard. Freedom of speech in my country. That's from watching too many US movies. Even in the US most people don't understand freedom of speech. All it really means is that the state can't prevent you from saying/publishing certain things, speaking out against the government, controversial opinions, etc. It has nothing to do with interactions between private citizens. Unless someone is specifically insisting violence, I have absolutely no obligation to respect anyone's freedom of speech since I'm not the state. In my country some people believe they can press charges against someone. You can't. You report a crime and the police decide if they are taking it further. It's not up to you whether charges are brought. You may want charges brought but the police drop the case. Alternatively, you can refuse to press charges and the police can bring a case anyway. It's harder without the victim or witness cooperation, but they still can. You do have a right to civil cases of course, but when people say press charges they believe they can do this via the police. An arrest isn't magically invalidated if the police don't read you your rights on the spot. There could be a whole thread of just misconceptions people have from watching cop TV. My little brother seems to be under the impression that at 17 and a half, if he got caught selling weed, which is illegal in my state unless you have a license to sell and a med card to buy, that when he turns 18 his record would be expunged. He also thinks driving a motorcycle without a helmet or a license of any kind, not even his car permit, is okay because if he does get pulled open, he can just run away from the cops. Also that him blowing into his friend's breathalyzer thing tied to the car ignition so that person can drive drunk is perfectly fine because he's a better driver when he's drunk. Negligent motorcycle driver forced me to hit him from behind with my car. I was young and naive at the time. Never been in an accident until then. Guy makes me sign a paper that says that the accident is my fault because I hit from behind and wanted compensation. I explained the situation to my dad, and he concluded that the guy was obstructing normal traffic and I had no option but to hit him from behind. In the particular circumstance the guy ended up taking us to court, showed the judge the piece of paper that I signed. I explained that I signed it under duress and that he explained that by law whoever hits from behind is responsible for the accident. Judge looked him in the eye and asked him if that's true. He said yes, then she asked him to point out which law states that. He just shut the F up. I'm no lawyer, but I don't feel like most of the villains in Scooby-Doo committed any actual crime. I don't think it's against the law to put on a mask and scare some trespassers on your own property. What if there's an abandoned gold mine underneath it? I think it would still belong to the property owner. What if the entrance to the mine is on somebody else's property, but the gold is under yours? Not a lawyer, but as someone who watches a lot of r/public freakout videos with people screaming, it's illegal to film me without my permission. I would say that. In most cases you don't need someone's permission to film in a public place where there is no expectancy of privacy. If it were a public bathroom, then yeah, that might be a problem, but filming at a park or on the sidewalk is not illegal. There's this great video from Wonder Shows and kind of related to this that cracks me up so much. This isn't exactly what you're asking for, but I think it's valuable for people to know. You do not need to wait 24 hours to report someone as missing. I would hope not, since every cop drama I've ever watched says the first 48 hours are the most important. If someone has to wait 24 hours, they lost 24 hours of that 48. The crazy thing is that they say it on actual true crime shows. Like, don't spread that misinformation. In California, it's not illegal to discuss your wages with your coworkers, despite what your boss might say. I'm a lawyer in California. I assume it's the same in the other 49 states, but don't want to speculate. It's actually not illegal anywhere in the United States to discuss wages or form/join a union, contrary to what many employers may claim. I also strongly recommend you do both to protect yourself and your colleagues from being taken advantage of. And I'm not sure if this is state by state or countrywide, but in some or all of the US it's actually illegal for employers to try to prohibit it. Even though many people think so, there has actually never been a Danish law allowing you to beat up a Swede with a stick, if he should walk across the ice on Øresund during winter. But, even though the law has never existed, it doesn't mean it shouldn't. No jury would convict you. No Danish jury would convict him. Well, it sure wouldn't be the Finns, either. What would have been your answer or question? Leave it in the comments below. Slap that like and subscribe button for more, and check out the link in the video description for even more answers. Peace out, and catch you in the next video.